The air in the inquiry room was thick with tension. Karoline Leavitt stood at the podium, ready to explain her recent comments about Jasmine Crockett. The $90 million slander lawsuit had been big news for weeks, turning what started as a heated debate on TV into a legal mess that could wreck Leavitt's career. Just before Representative Jasmine Crockett entered through the side door with her lawyers, all looking cold and determined. "I'm here to address this head on," Leavitt said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. She looked directly at Crockett, who showed no expression. What happened next surprised everyone and could change how political talks go in the US forever. But first, hit that like button and stick around. You won't want to miss what happens next. About 3 months ago, during a heated Fox News segment about government spending, Leavitt made a claim about Representative Crockett that would come back to bite her hard. Representative Crockett has been taking money meant for her district's basic upgrades and using it for personal projects that benefit her donors, Leavitt said on the show. The evidence is pretty clear if anyone bothers to look. Her statement quickly spread online, picked up by right-leaning media outlets across the country. What Leavitt didn't expect was Crockett's response, which wasn't a press release or an angry post online, but a huge $90 million slander lawsuit filed in federal court. Sweat through law school so folks could just lie about me all over TV, Crockett told reporters when she filed the suit. "It's time we brought back responsibility to our political talks. The stakes are super high. If Leavitt loses, that $90 million judgment won't just hurt her, it'll send shockwaves across government TV. Every talking head, rep, and official will have to think twice about the claims they make about people they don't like." For Crockett, the lawsuit was about fighting back against what she saw as consequence-free reputation assassination. That day, the legislative conference room had been cleared of everyone except the main player. Just Leavitt, Crockett, their lawyers, and 3 senior legislative mediators were left. The huge wooden table felt smaller than usual as the pressure in the room cranked up. Leavitt's lawyer, a seasoned DC guy named Richard H. Short, started with a calm statement. "We're here today hoping to sort this thing out fairly. Ms. Leavitt has a statement she'd like to read now." Crockett, dressed in a sharp navy suit, leaned back in her chair, arms crossed. Her main advisor, Marissa Washington, a top-notch defamation lawyer with a string of big wins, leaned forward. "We'll listen to the statement, but let's be clear, we're not here for show. We're here to get somewhere." Leavitt stood up, her hands shaking a little as she put her notes on the table. "Representative Crockett, I asked for this meeting because I think there's a misunderstanding that got way out of hand. My comments were based on reports that..." "Misunderstanding," Crockett broke in, speaking for the first time. Her voice was calm but sharp. "You went on national TV and accused me of being corrupt and bad with money. There's no misunderstanding about what you said." The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. "Can I continue?" Leavitt asked, trying to stay calm. "The reports I talked about have since been questioned, and I know they're not solid." Crockett leaned forward. "They've been totally disproven by 3 independent fact checkers and the legislative morality panel itself. You didn't mention reports during the broadcast. You said it was a proven fact." One of the mediators, Representative James Wilson, tried to ease the tension. "Let's keep things calm and let Ms. Leavitt finish what she's saying." Leavitt nodded thankfully. "Like I said, I now know the information was wrong. I'm ready to issue a public retraction and apology on the same channel where I first made the comment." For a moment, it looked like there was progress. Then Crockett's lawyer slid a paper across the table. "An apology isn't enough," Washington stated. "Here are our conditions. A full apology on Fox News, CNN, and MSNBC during prime time. A written apology published in the Washington Post, the New York Times, and your local paper. A $5 million payment to be donated to community projects in Representative Crockett's district, and a binding agreement that you'll never again comment on the representative's handling of district funds." Leavitt's attorney almost choked. $5 million? That's totally insane for one wrong comment. "Wrong." Crockett's voice was icy. "You know exactly what you did. This wasn't a slip of the tongue. It was a planned attempt to damage my reputation and career." The room tensed as Leavitt's team huddled in quiet discussion. After a few minutes, Leavitt stepped away from her advisors and walked straight toward Crockett. "Representative Leavitt said softly, her voice gentler now, "I know you're angry. You have every right to be, but $5 million would ruin me financially. I'm asking you person to person to reconsider." This was really the first real moment of the meeting. Leavitt dropped the government act and spoke from a place of real worry. Crockett stared at her for a while. The room felt still. "You should have thought about what would happen before you spoke," she finally said. "Actions have consequences, Ms. Leavitt. Sometimes big ones." One of the mediators tried again. "Maybe we can talk about a smaller payment." Crockett stood up, gathering. her papers. Our terms are clear. Meet them or we go to court where we'll ask for the full $90 million in damages. We have survey data showing exactly how much support I lost in my area because of your client's false claim. We have financial analyses of donation effects, and we have emails from your client's team showing they knew the claims were shaky before they aired. This last statement hit hard. Leavitt's face went white. That's impossible, she stammered. We haven't seen any such emails in discovery. You will, Washington replied calmly. We asked to force more emails, which your team conveniently left out. As Crockett headed for the door, Leavitt made one last try. Jasmine, please, she said, using Crockett's first name for the first time. This will end my career before it even starts. I'm begging you to show some sympathy here. Crockett stopped at the door, turned slowly, and looked right at Leavitt. You should have thought about careers when you tried to ruin mine with lies, she said, each word precise and measured. Sometimes the best lesson is the most painful one. With that, she left the room, her legal team following, leaving Leavitt alone at the table, the weight of what just happened crushing her. As the door closed, one of the mediators muttered to another, I've never seen anything like this in 20 years around here. She's going after her all the way. Flashbulbs popped as reporters shouted questions at Crockett's team as they left. Somehow, the press found out about the private meeting. Right away, the internet blew up with guesses about what went down behind closed doors. 3 days after the failed negotiation, Karoline Leavitt sat surrounded by stacks of documents in her lawyer's office. The discovery request was approved, and they were now facing tons of emails and texts that needed to be gone through before the trial. I don't get it, Leavitt said, pushing aside another stack of papers. She claims she has messages proving we knew the accusations were false. That's just not possible because I really believed they were true when I made them. He looked worried. Karoline, there's something we need to talk about. Our team has been looking at your initiative's emails, and we found these. He slid a binder across the desk. Inside were copies of emails between Leavitt's producer at Fox News and an investigator on her team. Producer, do we have solid proof of the Crockett dishonesty angle for tonight's segment? Investigator, not really. The first story came from that blog we talked about, but I can't find any regular confirmation. Maybe we should switch to something else. Producer, no way to change. Plans, Karoline is already prepped on this. Just make sure we say reports suggest to cover ourselves. Leavitt felt her face go pale. I never saw these. My brief said this was backed up by several sources. There's more, he said gravely. Your main media strategist apparently changed your prep document to take out the qualifiers and warnings from the original investigation. The realization hit Leavitt like a punch. She hadn't lied on purpose, but her team had set her up with only some of the information, and they knew it was questionable. Under the law, that might not matter. She was still the one who made the statements on TV. Mitch, we've got two options, he said. We can fight this in court, argue you thought you were doing the right thing based on what they told you, and hope for the best. Or we can go to Crockett with what we found. Show her your own people tricked you. It won't get you off the hook, but it might open the door for a fairer deal. The next morning, Leavitt did something unexpected. She called a press conference without talking to her lawyers. Standing alone behind the podium, facing all the cameras, she took a deep breath. I called this press conference to address the lawsuit between me and Representative Jasmine Crockett, she began, her voice steady despite her nerves. A few months ago, I made some comments on Fox News about how the representative manages local money. I've now learned those comments were wrong. Murmurs went through the crowd. What I'm about to say isn't coming from my legal team. Actually, they're probably going to be mad at me, but I believe in doing what's right. After looking at some internal emails, I found out that people on my team gave me info they knew wasn't solid. Plus, they left out important warnings from my briefing material. The room went silent. Every reporter was suddenly paying attention to the bombshell she was dropping. To be clear, this doesn't get me off the hook. I was the one who said those things on TV. The blame ultimately falls on me. But I want Representative Crockett and the American people to know that while I messed up and didn't check things myself, I didn't lie on purpose. Leavitt paused, fighting back tears. I've fired the people who twisted the info they gave me, and I want to give Representative Crockett a full and sincere apology. What I said was untrue, hurtful, and unfair. She's helped her district honestly, and the programs I said were bad are actually good for her voters. She looked right at the camera and said, Reference Crockett, I'm not asking for a lighter sentence. I just want you to know I never meant to spread lies about you. I messed up by not checking my facts, and I take full blame for that. Whatever happens to me in court, I'll deal with it. Leavitt then walked off, ignoring the reporters shouting questions at her. Her phone buzzed with a text from her lawyer. What have you done? By then another alert popped up. Urgent news. Representative Crockett was calling a press thing right away. An hour later, Jasmine Crockett Crockett stood at a podium in the State House, her face hard to read under the bright lights of news cameras. "I just saw Ms. Leavitt's statement," she began. "I appreciate that she admits the claims about me were false, but the damage those claims did can't just be erased with a simple sorry." The reporters leaned in, sensing there was more to the story. "When we filed our lawsuit, some thought it was too much, but I'm sure actions have equal and opposite reactions." Crockett paused, rearranging her notes before continuing. "Ms. Leavitt used her platform to share harmful lies about me that reached millions." Crockett stopped, arranging docs, then talked on responsibility comes in different forms. Ms. Leavitt made an apology. She had accountability for neglecting to confirm details, and she has removed those who supplied her with deceptive preparation. This came before a long pause. "I'm announcing that I'm modifying my legal action. I will now pursue $1 million. This is not from Ms. Leavitt, but from the Channel and Governmental Activity Organization who supplied her with untrue detail." The room buzzed after this. "I want Leavitt to work with me on a project that gets both parties to agree on better standards for how the government communicates. We'll come up with a pledge for government analysts and politicians to agree to check if what they say is true before making accusations on TV." Crockett looked right at the cameras. "This isn't about destroying Leavitt's career. It's about actually having outcomes for a system that praises lies over the truth. If she really is sorry, this is how she can make things right." As that press conference wound down, both women saw themselves in the middle of a media storm like nothing they'd ever been through before. What started as a simple case of someone talking bad about another person had turned into something bigger, maybe a turning point in how the government interacts with people. That night, as clips from both press events played on every news channel, Leavitt got a private message from Crockett. It was the first time they talked without lawyers or making public statements. It just said, "My office tomorrow, just you, no lawyers." The next morning, Leavitt arrived to find Crockett alone going over papers at her desk. Crockett pointed to a chair without looking up. "Thanks for coming," Crockett said, finally looking at Leavitt. "I wanted to talk to you straight, just the two of us." "I appreciate that," Leavitt replied carefully. "Let me be honest," Crockett continued. "I don't think you were just careless. I think you were reckless in a system that rewards recklessness." There's a difference." Leavitt nodded slowly. "That's fair, but your press conference yesterday surprised me. It took guts to stand there without your lawyer's approval and admit you were wrong publicly. It was the right thing to do." Crockett looked at her for a long moment. "You know, when I first filed this lawsuit, I wanted to make an example out of you. I was mad, not just at you, but at a government situation where folks can say whatever they want about public figures without anything bad happening to them. I understand things better now than before," Leavitt said quietly. "Here's what I'm proposing," Crockett said, sliding a paper across the desk. "This is the first draft of the group project I talked about yesterday. It's a set of rules for how the government communicates. Things like needing to verify facts, being open about where information comes from, and having ways to fix mistakes when they happen." Leavitt looked over the paper, nodding slowly. "These are great rules. The kind I should have followed from the beginning. If you're serious about making things right, I want you as a partner, not just agreeing, but really pushing for these standards, especially in your part of the department." For the first time since their argument started, Leavitt felt a glimmer of hope. "I'll do it, not because of the lawsuit, but because it's the right way for the government to communicate." Crockett reached her hand across the desk. "Then we have a deal. I'll tell my lawyers to move forward with the revised lawsuit against the network and the organization, but you'll no longer be personally named." As they shook hands, both women knew something special had just happened. Across party lines had been made on the unlikely base of a defamation case. When they walked out of Crockett's office together, reporters who had been watching the hallway bombarded them with questions. But it was that caught everyone's attention. Two political rivals walking side by side, neither winning nor losing, but united in purpose. The quickly spread online, and analysts across the political spectrum scratched their heads, trying to figure out this unexpected alliance. What no one yet knew was that this moment marked the start of a real shift in how the government handles broadcasting responsibility, something that would later be known as the Crockett-Leavitt standard. In the weeks after what the media called the reunification, the political world changed in ways that few could have predicted. The lawsuit against the network and government group wrapped up with a settlement of $2.5 million over Crockett's reduced ask, but way less than the original $90 million. What's more, Crockett and Leavitt's ideas ideas for government got surprise backing. What seemed like a long shot at first quickly picked up fans on both sides, mainly from the newer politicians who are tired of the trash talk in government. 6 big news channels like Fox News and MSNBC started using changed versions of the rules, adding new fact-checking to political stories. Online, they added new labels for facts and claims in politics. For Karoline Leavitt, it wasn't all easy. Some right-wing folks called her a traitor for teaming up with Crockett. Old friends walked away, saying she caved in to the left. But others, especially younger conservatives, saw her as doing the right thing. One well-known conservative writer said what Leavitt did was really conservative. She took responsibility, faced the music, and tried to make things better. Isn't that what we're all about? Believe it or not, polls showed people like the changes. A national poll said 78% of Americans agreed with stricter fact-checking in political stories, with most people across the board supporting it. The $90 million lawsuit that never went to court ended up doing what few lawsuits ever do: change how a whole industry acts. News bosses, seeing what happened, put in new fact-checking for reporters. Government people, aware of the possible money hit, thought twice before giving false info to their people. What do you think about all this? We want to hear from you. Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you like this story, subscribe to Celebrity Narratives. We're digging into the stuff they don't want talked about, and we're just getting started. God bless you, and God bless America.